Welcome back to the talk. We're going to be answering some audience questions right now. And so far I only have one question, but I think more will come in. So Mike, are you ready to answer some teenager Vietnamese questions, but also maybe some more non-teenager Vietnamese questions from the audience?
Absolutely, Phoebe. Happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. All right, so first question from audience number one. And audience number one's name is Minh Khang. And Minh Khang asks, I have to stay away from home to pursue my bachelor's degree in Hanoi. And Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam, but I often feel very lonely and I feel like I don't belong to this place. Do you have any tips to overcome these negative feelings? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, and a very similar experience that anyone would go through when you go to a destination which isn't your hometown to study. So my advice would be to really get involved as much as you can, accept any invitation you receive. So if people ask you to go and do something with them, accept that invitation, look at clubs that you can participate. All universities in Australia will have clubs that you can get involved in to meet people. Try and see if you can find a part-time job as well.
Thank you, Mike, for that piece of advice. The next question comes from Lanchi, and Lanchi asks, how can I financially prepare for an education in Australia? My parents may have some financial ability to help me, but some of my friends do not. So how can I prepare and how can my friends prepare?
Yeah, so the first piece of advice is to actually do your research. So look at the cost of tuition fees in Australia, and each university will have different fees. So look at what university best fits with your budget. Get a realistic understanding as to the cost of living in Australia. So it's typically about $20,000 a year once you factor in accommodation, food, entertainment, and all of those sorts of aspects as well. Obviously, a lot of students come with a bank loan to support themselves if mum and dad can't help provide those funds, and there is the opportunity in Australia to work while studying to supplement your income, but you shouldn't really rely on that to cover all of your costs. It's more a supplementation than anything else. I think do your research and look at the different ways to support yourself financially, but I think it's really important to make sure that before you do come to Australia, you've confirmed where you will actually be able to support yourself. It's important for the visa process, but it's also, of course, important for your welfare in Australia to make sure that you're not caught short financially.
Well, thank you for answering all of those questions, Mike. So Mike, can you tell us a little bit more about employability for international students in Australia?
Yes, of course, Phoebe, I'd be delighted to. Australia has some really good outcomes for international students in terms of employability. We recently released the International Graduate Outcomes Survey, and that showed that overall international students had a 90% employment rate following graduation. But the really good news is that Vietnamese students had a 94% employment rate, so much higher than international students overall for Australia. And in addition to that 94%, 9% of Vietnamese students had gone back into further study. So obviously, if you do the math, some of those students were studying and working at the same time, but some really great outcomes. That's driven obviously by things that I've mentioned, such as work integrated learning, the industry connections of our universities. One other great piece of news, I think, in terms of employability is the recent changes that the Australian government has made to the post-study work visa in response to COVID-19. So what this basically means is that international students who are studying offshore online are able to count that component of study, provided they've got a student visa, towards meeting the requirements of a post-study work visa. So what that ensures is that students who are studying offshore, waiting to come to Australia, they will still be able to take advantage of everything that Australia has to offer from an employability perspective.
That's very, very exciting, and that's a great move, I think, that the Australian government has made. And definitely, I think it brings a lot of optimism and it brings a lot of practicality in terms of how students can deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, or make use of the things that has happened or has changed during and post COVID-19. So it's wonderful that students can definitely do that. Mike, thank you for sharing. Well, thank you, Mike, for being with us today, and through all of your through all of your answers and your responses and your sharing, we can definitely see that Australia, I think, is a wonderful place for young adults to go and to start their journey towards becoming a member of society, because all of these resources are there to help them succeed and to be employable, and for those people that that are not yet sure, they still can watch the show and be inspired, and they can take your advice, go out there and do research or speak to people of the show. We can also support you. We have people to help you. So to the audiences, if you'd like to chat with us, or if you'd like to chat to anybody from our guests lineup this season, let us know, and we'll try to make something happen. All right, so Mike, thank you, and audiences, we'll see you again next time. Bye.